am the judge. Dredd may be the law, but I am the judge. And I'm still waiting for Farsight Studios to release Judge Dredd Pinball for the PlayStation consoles. It's been like a month since we last talked about it on iOS. Where is it for the PlayStation? Then again, they are stewing away in the ISO cubes. Maybe that's an explanation. Luckily, in the meantime, Oliver Hollingdale has released the 5th Prog in the series Cursed Edge. So I figure, to heck with this pinball waiting stuff, why don't we get on with more fan film coverage and do more about the Cursed Edge?
The judges are coming, so get your asses ready.
So you may remember on a previous Prog, this gang member, Voodoo, was sending out a transmission saying the judges are coming. This guy, Maximus, he picks up that transmission and knows the judges are coming for him next. Now, unfortunately, this Prog, it's short, but it really needed a little bit more meat on its bones. We got this very lengthy bit of scrolling scenery of Mega City 1, just detailing what's just happened. It's a little bit of a misstep, I think.
Control out.
So the judges want to come into my territory. Gorgon.
As per what I've just been mentioning, Maximus now tells his gang members, well, we've got Judges Cho and Coltan coming our way, so we gotta get ready for them. And he even says at one point, don't let me down.
Don't fail me.
Don't fail me.
The judges raided Voodoo and his crew. They're either dead or in the cubes.
You never heard of coded channels? Joe was gruff.
So Maximus then talks with Geek Gorgon about how the fact that judges are coming his way, they might have to move their distribution site.
We'll move the distro center. I can manage.
Look, the plan
It's a nice bit of footage of Geek Gorgon here. I really like how Oliver Hollingdale set up the lighting in this shot for our main baddie.
You and Voodoo have already fucked this up enough.
And then we cut to this scene of some red powder in giant piles being prepared. Now, I want to bring your attention to something here. You remember how in previous Progs, where you learned through characters like Dirty Frank, there was this red powder making its way into Mega City 1? This is the red powder, giant piles of the stuff. Where is it, you must be asking yourself? I mean, this is a giant pile of red powder on an industrial scale. Where's Geek Gordon keeping it? It didn't really occur to me until after I checked closely on this broadcast, but if you look up here, pay close attention to this little bit of landscape in the distance. That comes up at the very end of the Prog. But if you didn't notice that, you'd be wondering where this sequence took place. Anyway, do you remember in the last Prog, I had a bit of a beef with Oliver Hollingdale putting Judge Hollister, our woman judge, in the sexy cat suit at the end of the sequence? Well, luckily he has corrected for that, because Judge Cho and Judge Colton are about to show up. Colton is a woman judge, and she's wearing proper armor. So kudos to you, Mr. Hollingdale. I'm very pleased to see we've got a woman judge in proper attire. Well done. Unfortunately, I have to take away that compliment right away because I still love the way that Colton is wearing proper armor. But she and Cho have just arrived at Maximus's gang hideout. And listen to this line.
So you think by taking out my men?
Yeah, so with no actual footage indicating it, Cho and Colton have infiltrated Maximus's gang hideout and taken out his men. But we don't see that. It's like an entire sequence got cut out. Now, I don't know if something got in the way of bringing that to the final version of the Prog, but it really is a missed opportunity. And now all we have is Maximus puts some of the drug up his nose and he starts to become all powerful like the bad guy at the end of the last Prog who fights Hollister and LaBelle. And we get a little fight sequence, and that's the end of that.
Thank you, Control.
Speaking of Hollister and LaBelle, they're back. They're having a little discussion here about how come these gangs can move the red powder drug around so quickly. And Hollister brings up an interesting little story where she said she spotted some judges putting a couple of perps away in an unmarked vehicle. And that leads them to start thinking that maybe this is actually some kind of conspiracy and touches on the idea of crooked judges. Now that's an issue that I personally have with alternate tellings of the Judge Dredd world. It's not in tune with the comic books at all, but even the Carl Urban film touched on the idea of corrupt judges. So, you know what, these are all individual tellings of the tale, so I'll let it slide if the story is told well enough.
Crooked judges supplying labour to drug traffickers.
Then we really need to tread carefully. That's organized corruption to the highest level. Didn't you say that you got pulled away from those tunnels last minute?
The deputy? Really? No way.
You know the GEO is Edward Chora's brainchild.
Now, this is an important point, and it's not clear in the way the film has been told. Now, we've been seeing these in little 15, 20-minute progs at a time. Judge Hollister talks a lot about the GEO, and it took me a while to recall, what in the heck is the GEO? In Prog 2, we had LaBelle and Ames going to the Geo, that big dome that had like the landscape and the forest and all that stuff inside. That was called Geo in that particular prog, and now it's being called the GEO. I'm assuming they're the same place, and in fact, this logo here in the center, that does look a lot like the Geo logo that was in Prog 2. Anyway, LaBelle and Hollister are talking about how this has become kind of the playground of the rich. That deputy has actually started to move it in so that a lot of people who have got enough finances can do whatever they like in Geo or the GEO. And also, in this sequence here, Hollister is pointing out that the underground tunnels in that are actually very close to the outer wall that leads to the wasteland and the cursed earth.
The boundary wall. And beyond that, nothing but wasteland.
We need to get outside the wall and have a look.
Jezebel has determined the two of them need to get out there to the cursed earth and find out where these giant piles of this red powder drug are located. Hollister points out that's a bad idea. If you got corrupt judges and the cursed earth involved.
Buck might be able to help us out there.
Maybe her friend Buck, fellow judge that she went to the academy with, can help.
He's old school. We were at the academy together. I know I can trust him.
Okay, if you're sure.
Mm-hmm. Buck, we need to talk, but not over comms.
The prog ends with a whole sequence here. It's a bit lengthy, where we're obviously out in the cursed earth. Now, it's nicely filmed. I love the look of the landscape, and what we've got is not very clear, and there's a twist ending. So I'm going to kind of gloss over this sequence. It's worth watching it, though. It looks amazing. It involves this mystery shadow figure walking toward the foothills, and who's in the foothills? A sniper. In a nice little nod to the Carl Urban film, the sniper takes some slow-mo. Now you would think, why the heck would a sniper want to take something that's going to be clouding his judgment? But I guess it makes sense. Slow-mo does make time slow down, and if you're a sniper and you want to line up your shot, I guess in a way that would kind of make sense. So, a nice little tip of the hat to the Carl Urban film here. The rest of the sequence has a bit of a twist ending, as I say, so I'm not going to show the actual ending here, but it looks really, really nice, and it is essentially the end of the film. As I said when we were talking about those giant piles of sand, and I pointed out there's like a landscape of desert up in the corner, I have a feeling that's where this is. We are getting close to those giant stacks of the red powder, which in another sequence I haven't bothered to show here, is called Rage. That's the name of the drug. Obviously, Geek Gorgon is keeping it somewhere in the foothills, or in the cursed earth somewhere. Perhaps he's keeping it on the edge of the cursed earth. Cursed edge, you get it? Anyway. So what's my final verdict on prog number 5 of the Cursed Edge? Well, not very good, to be honest. There's a lot of jumping around. Now, in the previous prog, number 4, we were following Judges LaBelle and Hollister, and they were taking us as the audience along in the storyline, and that was really good. I was starting to see things were starting to brighten up for the Cursed Edge. Unfortunately, this is kind of a step backwards. It's back to kind of leaping around from sequence to sequence. We've got Maximus and his gang waiting for the judges to show up, and he says that great line about "don't fail me," and then they do, because they're not even shown later on when Judges Cho and Colton arrive. There's that throwaway line I mentioned, "You've defeated all my men." We should have seen that fight sequence. Maybe it was cut for not being very effective. It certainly wasn't cut for time. This Prog is only 15 or 16 minutes long. So that sequence should have been in there. We should have seen all of the gang fighting Judges Joe and Colton. I do think, though, a commendation to Oliver Hollingdale. You put Judge Colton in armor, and that was great to see, especially after my complaint of Judge Hollister in her cat suit in the last episode. But unfortunately, that's about the only positive I really have to say. It's not that there's like glaring omissions or problems other than what I just mentioned. It's more the fact that we've got like a bunch of desert in one corner is supposed to indicate to the audience that this is where the giant piles of this drug are being stored, and we're going to be going there at the end of the sequence, hence all the landscape, the sniper in the desert. That's kind of relying a lot, and there's a lot of very quickly thrown by the audience bits of script. The fact that Geo is now called the GEO. I didn't know that. I had to look it up on the previous Progs. So, all in all, I have to actually give this one a sentence. It's going to need like 6 months in the ISO cubes. I'm going kind of lenient there because there's a lot of potential. I like the fact that Judge Colton is back in armor. That's great to see. And I do enjoy Judge LaBelle and Judge Hollister. I think that they've got a great chemistry, and I like following them along. And they do seem to be our main characters. But all these other judges that are just kind of thrown in, it seems very haphazard, and the way certain sequences were obviously just tossed to the side, and then we suddenly have this sniper at the end. There's nothing that informs the audience any of this is supposed to happen. So, yeah, 6 months in the ISO cubes, unfortunately, for Prog number 5. But with luck, with good behavior, and a good Prog number 6, maybe that'll be reversed. I'm certainly hoping so. So, until next time, stay out of trouble.